So Scott, talk to us. What do we have here from a beer sampling standpoint?
So we've got 3 of our biggest selling beers that we've got at Four Day Ray. The oldest one of the bunch, as far as the time that's been part of our collection, is the Blood Orange Blonde, which is actually our biggest selling beer. Sells like wildfire. Without going and looking at numbers, I would say it's easily a 4-to-1 or more.
Wow.
What it sells to everything else.
Was it an immediate hit when you added it?
Oh yeah, and it's just grown. It's just grown and grown and grown. You see it all over the place. We sell it. So both of these 2 beers, we sell over at the Fishers Event Center.
Okay.
We sell it in the large format cans. We just got the large format, the 19.2 ounce cans. Okay. And it's fun because I go over there and do the marketing tables over there.
Yeah.
And every time I see somebody with one of those, I'll like throw them a beer token for, for support. Hey, thanks for your support.
Yeah.
Come by the restaurant and have a beer with us, right?
Yep.
And it's the best when you walk into a crowd and there's like one dude drinking one of these big cans, and these other guys are like, well, why didn't I get anything? I'm like, well, I mean, he's drinking our beer, man. So, if I see you with one, I may throw one your way.
Yeah.
Now, do the volleyball team, do they consume those as well?
I don't know if they do or not. I mean, may slow the reaction time down a tad.
That's all right.
A little strategic after-match, after-match branding there.
Yeah. But yeah, they're fun, man. And over at the event center, especially, these are great because it's like if you've ever taken kids to Disney World and as soon as it starts to get dark and they pull out the glow-in-the-dark stuff and everything, as soon as somebody sees one, they all got to have them. So once you see 2 or 3 of these, you start looking around, you'll see them all over the place.
Yeah.
But these are great. What I would refer to as like a transition beer for somebody that maybe doesn't like beer at all. A great way to get into it because of the different flavors that are imparted into this.
Sure.
A cream ale base, and then our Indiana Flyers, Sweet Corn Pilsner.
My personal favorite.
Which is, it's a great lawnmower beer, great pool beer. It's your dad's beer that he wished he had back in the day when all he had was, just that rough stuff that you would drink when you were 9, 10 years old. You're the warm backwash taste of it, right? But yeah, so the Indiana Flyer tastes great. It's a good, as the weather's starting to turn now. Great way to get there and smash a couple of those and not feel like too overwhelmed. The lower ABVs on those.
Yeah.
What's your favorite beer that you guys make, either now or previously?
I'll be honest. I think the Air Raid is my favorite beer that we have. I joke about it when people come in. It's like a traditional English style bitter, and it's. I always say it's the best beer that nobody buys.
Yeah.
And we do sell it. Don't get me wrong on that, but it's one of those things where people don't think about it. And I liken it to, if you ever had. I'm not a gin drinker, so. But I'll taste anything. And so somebody comes up and tells me, I got this great gin cocktail. Taste it. Man, that's awesome. It's balanced. It's got great flavors to it. It just does it. I'd never order that if I went out to eat, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the Air Raid falls into me.
Okay.
But once somebody tastes it and they get the flavor for it, if I'm going and pouring myself a beer, that's usually what it is.
Okay.
Now, is that a seasonal thing or not?
It's here all the time. It's one of the OGs that's been around since day one, since Brian and Mitch started this whole deal, and it's just a fantastic beer, and it gets overlooked, I think, because of the IPA craze that's been going on forever. The hazies and this, that, and the other, which we have. We have a good collection of those that we have out there, but we try to keep a nice, diverse lineup of our beers from the Belgians to the fruited beers to kind of dipping the toe in the sour a little bit there. This is more tart. I wouldn't call it a sour, but it does have kind of a tart with the blueberry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I love it. That's awesome. All right.
Is this thing on?
Welcome back to another episode of the Summits Podcast. Thank you all for joining us wherever you get your podcasts. And for those of you that are tuning in on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thank you for doing so. We greatly appreciate you tuning in. All right, today we are at 4 Day Ray here in Fishers, Indiana. Mr. Scott Kennedy is our guest. Scott, welcome to the Summits Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Why don't you give a little quick background intro on yourself?
Okay, so we're sitting here in 4 Day Ray, and the brewery side, I run the restaurant side. I'm the director of operations for the Yorktown location, which we opened up just about a year ago, and our location here. I've been with 4 Day Ray since April of 2018, so coming up on 7 years now.
Nice.
It's been a great run. My background, just to kind of go from most recent to back, I guess. I came here from downtown. I was running Hyde Park Prime Steakhouse. Opened that restaurant when it came around. I opened McCormick and Schmick's seafood restaurant downtown in 2005, and then was with Macaroni Grill, if anybody remembers that place. But I moved to Indiana because of Macaroni Grill back in 2002. I was with them for about 14 years and worked kind of all around the Midwest and the eastern side of the country with them. But great concept. A lot of great friends, a lot of great memories with that. But that's kind of what launched me into wanting to be in the restaurant business. So I'm, a lifer. So pay attention in school, kids, or you wind up like me. But anyway, it's just a great time because I just enjoy, the business. The highs and the lows are fantastic in both ways. What you learn from the lows, and then the highs that you get to see as far as watching people grow and develop. And whether that's a 16-year-old busser or dishwasher or host that you've had, to guests that have come in, and you get to make relations with your guests, and you see people getting engaged and then getting married and having babies, and their kids grow up and continue to come back. And it's super cool and rewarding, I think, to see people's growth and to run into people. And again, being in this market for 20 to 23 years, I see people that I haven't seen in the longest time, or run into a hostess in here about a year ago. Worked for me at the Macaroni Grill in Carmel. Hadn't seen her in probably 15, 18 years, right? So it's just a lot of fun. It's super rewarding to see that. And, as you see, I refer to them as my kids. Like when my kids grow up and they go off and get their jobs and get married, and it's just, I don't know, just heartwarming.
Well, and it's I know several parents who want their kids to have a service-oriented job versus working behind a screen, because you got to be able to learn how to interact and communicate with people.
Absolutely.
And there's no better environment than this because, to your point, highs and lows, you're going to have some really happy customers, some good stuff, and you're going to have some stuff that doesn't go quite right. You got to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Then, the other thing with the kids too is that I always will come back to that. It's like the lessons to teach them. It's like, hey, Vince, I know you missed your shift the other day, but look, when you go on from here, here's how you handle this. You're not going to work here the rest of your life, but here's how to better handle this when you move on to another job, or when they do decide to go on their own and it's good terms, right? And it's like, hey, take these lessons and move on forward so that you can help yourself, be a better employee or better manager or whatever you decide to do in your life.
Agreed. Cool. So Scott, you're a member of Team Heroes, and for those of you that don't know, Team Heroes is a component of the Heroes Foundation, and really go out and preach the whole healthy lifestyle, cancer prevention portion of our summits. And I would say that the majority of Team Heroes are cyclists, although several do triathlons and running, and et cetera. When did you first start getting involved with Team Heroes?
Well, that's good. That's a great question. So I used to live about a mile away from here, west of here, and I would ride over to motion cycling. When I first started cycling, gosh, I'll say it's probably 2011, 12. No, it was before that, 2007, maybe 2007-ish. When I really got serious, bought a nice bike, right? Go out and ride by myself, and then I started finding out about going on group rides, and it'll make you faster, it'll make you better. And so I go over to Motion, started riding the slower shop ride, if you will. Made some friends in that group, and they're like, hey, if we really want to push ourselves, let's go ride this ride. And I always refer to it, you'll get a kick out of this, so I always refer to it as the biker gang. Like, when are you going to start riding with Heroes? I'm like, well, nobody's asked me to join the biker gang, right? But, I mean, over that time, the brother and sisterhoods that I've created, so I can't really tell you a day or a time. I can tell you I've got a lot of kits. Kind of like we were joking about papers earlier. I've got a lot of old kits that my wife wonders when I'm going to throw them out. So my cycling outfits from the different years that we've done it. And yeah, I mean, I used to be a triathlete, retired several years ago from that. I'm jokingly retired, but just didn't have the time to train for that. And I just enjoy riding bikes. I used to play golf, and I could go out and bang balls all day long and hit the range and get some instruction and play 18, and never really got any better at it. And I started riding a bike, and it's like, I had to do this. I feel better, I get better. And that's where my passion for that took off. So I guess 2000, probably 10-ish or 11 is when I really became involved with the Heroes and then the Heroes Foundation, finding out about that, because I think there's a lot of misconception on both ends of the fence of that, right? Like, but there's the Heroes Foundation, and then people may not understand that Team Heroes is also, but we're kind of lockstep with what we do on that.
Yep.
Like I said, the brotherhood and sisterhood and the support that we have for each other in the group, whether it's cancer related or not, whether it's just falling on hard times, somebody losing a job, somebody, having a spouse or a friend or a family member that's, ill or has, become sick in some way. There's something special and magical about it. And the way that we hold each other up and lift each other up during the hard times. And then we beat each other down when we get on the bikes.
Well, that never happens.
No.
So you've been involved long enough to have been around when Spin for Heroes first started,
Yes.
which has now evolved into Fit for Heroes. What are some of the things that you recall from that event in the past?
The Spin for Heroes?
Yeah.
So we used to do it, now correct me if I'm wrong, but we used to do it at the old Colts complex out there.
Correct.
The old, before they moved into the new one. And this one, you get all the stuff. So some of the things again, it's the brotherhood, it's the, everybody being around. There's a little, lighthearted competition going on with it. The fundraising aspect of it to help the Heroes Foundation and the three tenets of that. The clowns that are out there. We did have, I don't know if you were there the one year when Dixon and his team put the big front chain ring on it, and they were riding their bike like 100 and something miles an hour. I think during the time I figured out they could have gone from here to Nashville in the time of the thing. So that was super cool. And then the other thing is just through the time of Spin for Heroes and things that we've done, we actually did. If you remember in COVID, it was virtual, right?
Right.
Yep.
And we got a group and we actually did it in here. So we had 4 or 5 guys in here that we brought in, and we did our Spin for Heroes in here on that. And then it evolved into Fit for Heroes to bring everybody in. So whether you walk or you run or you swim or you're hiking or whatever it is you do outside for fun and for fitness, then it makes it where it's everybody can kind of play. In that world.
Yeah. Just get your butt outside, get active, get off the couch,
do something.
get away from your screen. Do something.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Cool.
Put your phone down.
Right. What would you say your best discipline is relative to cycling or with the team in general?
As far I'm not.
Well, I mean, do you prefer like shorter, faster distances, or are you more of a long miler?
That's hey, I do it all now.
Okay.
I typically like to at least be out for a couple of hours if I'm going to go out and ride.
Yeah.
But several years ago, I just took up touring with a group of the guys. We're actually in the throes of planning our trip this year.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just an entirely different view on the world and the country and the different areas you go and the people you see and on and on and on, right?
Yeah, so I remember now seeing that. I'm glad you brought that up. What? Tell us a little bit about the last tour you guys did last summer.
Yeah, so we did. We went from Pittsburgh to Norfolk, Virginia. Basically, what we did. So we started it up in Pittsburgh on the Gap, the Great Allegheny Passage, and we basically did rode the length of that, and then we hopped on more rail trails and took through Virginia, all the way down into Norfolk, and it was just we saw the Great Divide. The Mason-Dixon line. We drank a little bit of beer. It's always a center point of everything we do. Beer and barbecue and ice cream is kind of the goals.
Sounds perfect.
But it's usually camp, a couple, maybe 3 nights, then we'll stay in an Airbnb to kind of wash clothes, get a good hot shower, clean up, and get ready to go again. But it's a full self-supported ride. So we drove to Pittsburgh, dropped the car off, and then we're on our own on bikes for a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay. Down to Norfolk. Then do you go back?
No, and we just got a one-way rental car to come back.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, again, like I said, just the people you see and riding through that area of the country was super, super cool because you learn about it when you're younger in school, but then when you're riding and you see all of the placards of everything, of all the history and everything that went on down there in the 16 and 1700s, you don't realize where you are till
Right.
you realize where you are.
Yeah. So who's the master planner of saying, okay, here's the route we're going to take, but then within that route, figuring out like the different stops and all that?
Lee Jackson. I could show you the spreadsheet if you want. I just found it today. It's down to, it's seriously, it's down. The spreadsheet is mind blowing what he does and the work that he puts into it. Lee and Lenny are the two masters of all that. And they kind of farm it out to the rest of us that are going to go on the trip. And so I just got assigned today to get the rental to go from here to Sandusky for this year's trip.
Yeah, so let's tell us about this year's trip.
So we're going to start in Sandusky. We're going to take a ferry over to Pelee Island, and we're going to camp there, do a little bit of riding, and then we'll take the ferry over into Ontario. And we're going to ride around Ontario and then come back through Buffalo and ride down.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Ride down across the coastline down there. So
Yeah.
When you're riding through Ontario, you're probably not going to have like an American flag coming off the back of your bike.
not nowadays. Hopefully it cools off by then.
Yeah, I hope so too.
But maybe we stay. Who knows?
Yeah.
How long-
We love our friends to the north. We don't want
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
no issues. How long is that tour?
So it's about 600. It's just shy of 700 miles.
Wow.
680 miles.
over how many days?
10,
Okay.
10-ish days, 10, 11
Okay.
days. So we'll have some days where we'll do 75, 80, and some days we'll do like 45 or 50.
Yeah.
But then there's some unpaved action that we're going to see this year. So it's fun.
I mean,
it's exciting.
even if you're not like going at a huge clip, I mean, 70 to 80 miles on a bike in
It's
a
a
day.
long day in the
It's a
saddle.
long day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that can make parts of your body.
Absolutely. But we'd break it up. So you know, you get up, get your breakfast, get ready, pack up your stuff. We're on the road by 8:30 usually at the latest. And so you do 30, 35 miles, just leisurely pace.
Yeah.
And then stop and have lunch, a beer, some ice cream, and then another 30-ish miles or whatever to wherever we're going on average.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but it's different. I mean, you get out
Yeah.
there and, it's just, you're with people. Sometimes you're not. We all have the maps on our Garmin. So like if you want to go off the front or if you want to hang back, we don't have to stay together.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
How much are you carrying in your pack? You mentioned you're camping.
yeah, so we'll go full loaded. A couple of guys will ride with trailers on the back of their bikes. The rest of us will have panniers on the front and the rear.
Okay.
I got mine down to about 82 pounds, my bike.
Okay.
The last time I did it. And it's really different than riding a regular bike. It's like driving a semi. It doesn't turn as fast. And then when you take all your packs off, when you get to a campsite and try to go ride to dinner or ride to a
You're like,
bar,
oh my
your
God.
bike feels like there's nothing under you. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
And once you get going, once you're going on it, you can just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
Let it do its deal. So,
Yeah.
But the first one I went on, we went through Columbus, Ohio, and that's where I lived before I was here.
Okay.
And that was where it really it was like, this is worth it, right?
Yeah.
Because I saw a whole completely different world of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Than I ever did after living there for 3 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was really neat.
Cool.
That's awesome.
What the basis of this podcast is about cancer stories, and we all have several of them. And I know Team Heroes and yourself individually are not exempt from that. So Scott, what is your cancer story?
So I'll give you 3. I'll start at my closest cancer story with my mom. Lost her to breast cancer. She died at the age of 53. Fought it for about 4 years. And ups and downs and all arounds with it. It was a lot of blessings and a lot of curses, I guess, if you will. But my biggest blessing I took away from that was that she was very in touch and involved with what was going on and what the process was going to be. And I always tell people, anybody that gets into this, if you've never read the book Tuesdays with Maury, I would highly suggest reading that book. I've passed it along to several people that I've come across that are in that situation, and how to cope with what's coming. Right? It's one of those things that we're all going to do it. Like everybody's gonna pass on at some point in time.
Yeah.
And so if you can get to the point where you can just accept it, it's never easy, but it makes it easier to handle. And the way that she prepared my brother and myself to handle it was, out of this world.
Yeah. How old were you when she passed?
Let's see, 29. So she never got to see. So my ex-wife and I, we were pregnant with our daughter, and it was funny when we found out we were pregnant. Called her up, and it was just like this hockey stick. Like the emotions kicked in, and she was, all ready, and she went and purchased, christening gowns and christening outfits for all of the kids, all the grandkids that she knew she was going to have. Well, I only had one.
Yeah.
So my brother took care of the rest of the other side of that one, but he had 4. So that was kind of that. My stepfather, who has been an amazing father figure and partner in my life, could have, I've told the story a million times. I call him, we refer to him as dude, and the dude could have just rode off into the sunset and never looked back. And I would have never thought anything different of the matter. I would have never changed my respect factor for him, but he put his arms around us and pulled us in even closer. and to the point where they were living in Kansas at the time. They were in Topeka, Kansas is where they lived. And then he moved to Lawrence after she passed away. And then he ended up retiring here after he got remarried. So they just live just 5 or 6 miles from us here.
Nice.
And he's really been a rock solid figure in my life for that. So
That's great.
Totally thankful for him. And again, going through things like that, he's been good in helping us, climb mountains and get over the stresses of life that we have.
Sure, yeah.
My other one's a little shorter. Second one's a little shorter. It's my my best high school friend down in Tennessee. Grew up in Nashville, went to high school down there. And we found out that he had liver cancer. And one of my buddies who's in the medical field came up. He's a doctor at Vanderbilt, came up here to see me. And at first when he was like, "Hey, I'm going to stop in to see you," I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm super excited to see this guy." Came in and sat down on the couch, and it was like, as soon as he sat down, I knew something wasn't right. He didn't beat around the bushes. He hit me right between the eyes with it. Hey, Trent's sick. He's got liver cancer. It's not good. But again, it's one of those things. Another piece of my life that's kind of like my team heroes in Tennessee, if you will.
Sure.
They don't ride bikes, but we. I've got a very strong core group of guys that we went through high school together. That I'm heading down next weekend to go spend the weekend with them for the first weekend of the tournament. And
Nice.
it's just an annual thing that we do. But there'll be 10 people or so of us. They'll be there, and we rallied around Trent, rallied around his family, and just supported them all the way through it. And it's just, I guess that's probably one of the things in my life that I struggle with is when it hits somebody that's like liver cancer. Like, really, dude? Like, this guy didn't drink. He was the good one of all of us. He really was. He was like the gentle giant of our group.
Yeah.
And we were the ones that were out, raising Cain and partying and doing everything else. But maybe it's just a wake up call. Maybe it's like, hey, be more like Trent. And that's what we kind of like try to look like on that. But his battle was a little bit. It was, I think, about a year or so, 8 months to a year. He was battling, and when it got him, when it took over, it just went really rapid. None of the cancer, no cancer is taken lightly, but liver cancer gets you pretty good.
Yeah.
And then my last one's my most recent one. David Evers, we just lost him February 4th this year. And this is right in the bullseye of the Heroes Foundation and Team Heroes for me. David and my wife, or David's wife and my wife, Holly and Clara, have been friends. They worked together at Ann Taylor back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Then they worked for AT&T together, selling communications. And I didn't know David or anybody. I met them. I met him at the Kids Coats, Liam's function that they do over Labor Day weekend. And she saw Holly in the crowd and then introduced David and me to each other. And we started riding bikes. They lived in McCordsville at the time.
Okay.
And we live over in Fishers, just north of the high school. And they were talking about, wanting to move and whatnot. Well, this home went for sale and sold right behind us to them.
Oh, wow.
So they literally are my backyard neighbors at the time. And so, we would go for our rides, our kind of rally thing on Friday nights or Saturday nights before the ride was like meet in the alley at what time, kind of like, meet in the alley, but we'd meet in the alley. My garage door would go up all the time, and he'd already be out there back and forth, probably trying to get a few more miles than me, before we got going. But yeah, we were going to Martinsville. We came back from Martinsville ride training for Iceman this year. And on the way back, he was complaining about headaches and kept saying that he thought it was something to do with his contacts and his prescription. He needed to go see the eye doctor and yada, yada. Long story short, that transposed itself into he had a stage 4 glioblastoma. He'd gone through some headaches and gone through this and the other, and it just got to a point where he couldn't bear it. And he went and checked himself in at the ER. The silver lining to his cloud is David worked in the pharmaceutical industry for UCB, was very heavily involved in the epilepsy side of their business.
Okay.
And so he's in the hospitals all the time. So if he hadn't checked himself in when he did, I think that who knows what would have happened, how it would have done. but it more than likely would have just been like, hey, we'll schedule you a surgery out, in March, right?
Right.
Well, he went to the ER. They got him in. His surgery was like a couple of days later. They got him in, got him taken care of. But I was sharing with Vince earlier, like I knew David for many years, right? Couldn't tell you where the guy worked until, after he passed, basically, right?
Yeah.
He was just a quiet guy.
Yeah.
But one of those really interesting people you learn about after they're gone, of the amazing things that he did for people and the love in his heart and the things that he, how he championed what his vision was at work, right? And they said it over and over and over at his service, and when we were here for his celebration of life afterwards. His work associates told stories about how it wasn't work for David, it was his calling. He went in there to do it, and how he would go through red tape for people that he saw that needed to get, maybe their insurance wouldn't cover the cost, or maybe the hospital wasn't wanting to give or whatever, but he would find a way to get people what they needed. And just, awesome guy, awesome to me, awesome to my kids, my stepkids, anybody that came in contact with him, quirky, we love the guy. We call him Frozone, big, tall, skinny guy, and he'd come out in the wintertime and he looked like Frozone from The Incredibles. But he went by Diamond Dave, and it was a nickname that I kind of threw at him, as we'd ride. And so since he's passed, we've all got stickers made, Diamond Dave stickers, all on our bikes and our helmets to keep them in our memory.
Yeah.
And keep things going forward. But But the other piece of that comes through, and this is what kind of brings the heroes together, and the whole reason why we're sitting here is, as soon as I put the call out, I told everybody, I found out about it. I told everybody when we were at Iceman, because that's when I knew. I didn't want to say anything and get people wound up about it, right?
Yeah.
And then it not be a big deal. But at Iceman, it was a big deal. We knew about it. So we told everybody about it, and then immediately it's just like this absolute blanket of support from everybody in the team. And people that knew him well, the people that knew him not so well, and people that really barely even knew him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the concern for Holly, his wife, and the concern for Noah, his son, every day. There's probably not a day I'm not around everybody, and the first thing out of my mouth, how are Holly and Noah doing? And that speaks to the character of the team. When you got a fallen soldier, right? But they're still concerned about those that are still here with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. The team heroes is the best thing that's happened to me. Heroes Foundation is fantastic. I'm over the moon to be able to sit with you two guys and share this moment with you, because cliche as it gets, cancer sucks, and Stuart Scott said in this thing, you're not going to beat it. But I know David's in a good place. His a little more deep dive on him, but he lost his mom to breast cancer when he was 9 years old.
Okay.
So, and his dad when he was in his 20s. So I know he's with them, and that brings me peace. I was telling Vince too that he had his sense of humor all the way up until the very, very end. Very end. And he was reading documents. One of the IU surgeons came in, and he was telling this doctor how he just read his article that was just published, about epilepsy and whatnot.
Okay.
And just the guy's mind was just always going.
Yeah.
Always going. And his heart was as big as it gets. And so, but yeah, that's my cancer story. So, I got three figures in my life, if you will, that I know they look down and they watch me and probably shake their fingers at me from time to time. I'm sure they put a little bit around me from time to time to keep things good. And, it's something to strive for, to be more like each one of them in their special way, what they did to touch me and to touch other people around them.
Yeah. Well said. Well, thank you for sharing those stories.
Yeah.
We appreciate everything you've done as part of Team Heroes, but also in your support of the Heroes Foundation, not just personally, but also through 4 Day Ray.
Thank you.
You guys have been great supporters of ours, whether it be supplying beer for some of the events or just being a general marketer, having us on your
Tap for a Cause.
Tap for Cause.
Tap for a Cause. Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting that
great.
back going in September next year too.
Okay, awesome.
So,
Well, we appreciate everything that you do personally.
Yes.
We appreciate everything that 4 Day Ray is doing. So thank you very much.
It's an honor. really is.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Summits Podcast. We appreciate you guys taking your time to tune in, listen to these stories, and giving your support, however it may be. If you're tuning in on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thanks again for doing so. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell icon so you can be alerted when new episodes like this one drop. We would greatly appreciate it. And at the end of the day, all of this is in the name of BeatCancer.